All right, strap in, everybody. Today we are taking a deep dive into narcissism.
Ooh, exciting.
It is a bit unsettling at times, but definitely fascinating.
Yeah.
So we're cracking open Surrounded by Narcissists
Okay.
by Thomas Erickson.
I know him.
Yes. He also wrote Surrounded by Idiots.
Right, right.
But this one, he's not just focusing on like the clinical diagnosis of MPD,
Uh-huh.
but what he calls narcissistic culture.
Interesting.
So we're going to try to figure out how to spot it
Okay.
and how to, I guess, deal with it in our own lives. What's fueling it?
Yeah, that's really interesting because, even if someone doesn't have full-blown narcissistic personality disorder,
Right.
you see more and more behaviors,
Oh, for sure.
that have that narcissistic flavor.
Totally.
And it's not just individual quirks, it's like impacting society at large.
Right. So let's break it down.
Okay.
What are we even talking about here? What are the hallmarks of narcissism?
Well, Erickson lays out that a grandiose self-image is a big one. That constant need for admiration,
Uh-huh.
lack of empathy,
Yeah.
and a really strong sense of entitlement.
Oh, yeah. I know a few people like that. It's
Yeah.
like that joke. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
Oh my God, that's perfect. Classic.
So, but it gets even more interesting.
Oh no.
Because narcissism is actually part of what's called the dark triad.
Oh yeah, the trifecta.
So walk us through who else is at this party.
Okay, so we got psychopathy.
Okay.
That's like the most severe one.
Uh-huh.
Potentially, like literally rooted in brain structure.
Oh,
A
wow.
lack of conscience, a lack of empathy, often paired with manipulative and impulsive behavior.
Okay.
Then you've got sociopathy, which is similar, but often thought to be more shaped by environment
Oh, okay.
and experiences. Like if someone's experienced trauma,
Interesting.
so less nature, more nurture.
Okay.
And then there's Machiavellianism.
Ooh, chills. Gives me chills.
Yeah, Machiavellianism. It's actually a really under-researched area. Really?
But these are like the master manipulators,
Okay.
cunningly focused on power and personal gain. Think like Frank Underwood from House of Cards.
Oh, yeah.
Just always scheming 3 steps ahead.
Okay, so this is a big question, what I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Which of these three is the biggest threat
Oh, man.
in the world today? Like, is one worse?
It really depends on context.
Okay.
I mean, a narcissist in a position of power
Right.
is going to look different than, say, a psychopath just manipulating their way through life.
Right.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all threat assessment.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's back up for a sec.
Okay.
How does someone become a narcissist? Is it like nature or nurture? Like, how do you end up like this?
Well, like we were just talking about with sociopathy, it's probably a really complex interplay of factors,
Uh-huh.
but Erickson really emphasizes parenting styles.
Okay.
He talks about overvaluation,
Oh.
where parents praise their kids.
Constantly. Like, you're so special, you're superior.
Mm.
Creating these like little emperors.
Oh, so it's like well-intentioned.
Yeah. And I can see that backfiring.
Good tech.
Instead of genuine confidence, you create a sense of entitlement and disregard for others.
Right, right.
But he also talks about what he calls narcissistic injury.
So that's where like trauma comes in, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So sometimes, like significant trauma, especially early in life, can lead to someone just shutting down their empathy
Oh, wow.
as self-defense.
I
Like their
prefer-
emotional world goes into lockdown.
I mean, yeah. If the world's been a cruel place to you,
Right.
you got to put up some walls.
Exactly.
But then that must make it hard to have healthy relationships.
Right. The irony is that the defense is designed to protect
Right.
can actually end up isolating them even further.
So this brings us to this idea of narcissistic culture, the big picture.
Okay.
So Erickson is arguing that while NPD diagnoses might be stable,
Ah,
narcissistic behaviors are becoming more common.
yeah. And he points to some really interesting trends.
Okay.
Well, social media is a huge one.
Oh, for sure.
Fueling self-promotion, this constant comparison,
Uh-huh.
and the pressure
Mm-hmm.
to project a perfect image.
It's the highlight reel of life, right?
Exactly.
Someone's posting their failures.
Right. And that distorts your perception of what's real and what's even attainable.
Right.
And that just sets you up for like dissatisfaction and envy.
Totally.
He also talks about role models
Okay.
and how it seems like we have more and more celebrities who gain fame
Uh-huh.
for negativity.
Mm.
Like they're rewarded for bad behavior.
It's a weird time to be
A
alive.
very strange feedback loop.
Yeah. Okay, so this one blew my mind.
Right.
Erickson even talks about car design,
What?
reflecting this shift.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, when you think about it,
Yeah.
car fronts have become so much more aggressive.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah. And he shows it visually
Mm.
by comparing photos from different years,
Oh, wow.
like in the early 2000s. Okay. A Toyota Corolla
Uh-huh.
and an Audi have pretty standard kind of rounded fronts.
Yeah, pretty standard.
But fast forward to like to 2015,
Okay.
and those same cars, drastically different.
Oh, wow.
Much more angular, wider grills,
Huh?
headlights that are like narrowed eyes. It's subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. Wow. I never made that connection, but you're right.
Yeah.
So the question is, are we becoming a more narcissistic society?
Mm.
What have you observed, in your work, in your life?
Yeah, I think there are definitely aspects of our culture that are trending in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
This intense focus on the individual, this
Mm-hmm.
pursuit of fame at all costs,
Mm-hmm.
this lack of genuine connection.
Yeah.
It really does feel like a breeding ground.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get real.
Okay.
What's it like to live with a narcissist? And how do we spot those red flags, early on?
Well, Erickson says that narcissists can be incredibly charming at first.
Oh, yeah.
They shower you with attention and affection. But soon, these patterns emerge.
Like what?
Disregard for boundaries,
Uh-huh.
gaslighting.
Can you explain gaslighting for people who might not be familiar with the term?
Sure, it's this sneaky form of manipulation
Okay.
where the narcissist will make you question your own sanity,
Oh, wow.
your own perceptions.
Okay.
Like they deny things you know to be true. They'll twist situations.
Oh, that's awful.
They make you feel like you're going crazy.
Oh, so you're like doubting yourself all the time.
Yeah,
So then on top of that, you've got manipulation.
right.
And Erickson has some really unsettling examples from his book.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, like what?
I mean, there's one about a woman who threatened suicide to get an apartment from her parents.
Oh my gosh.
Another one about a man who would slander anyone who didn't give him enough attention.
Wow.
And of course, like the classic blaming partners for all the relationship problems.
So have you ever encountered any of these red flags?
Oh yeah, unfortunately in my line of work.
Yeah, I mean,
Just in life, it's more common than you think.
oh, for sure.
And I think recognizing these signs early on
Yeah.
is just so crucial.
Absolutely. The damage can be significant.
It really can.
Okay, so let's say you're in a relationship with someone
Yeah.
who's exhibiting these traits. How do you even break free?
Well, Erickson is really clear about this.
Okay.
It's tough,
Even if you know it's not good for you.
even when it's necessary.
Why is it so hard to walk away?
Well, the emotional manipulation is really powerful.
Yeah.
You've been kind of conditioned to doubt yourself,
Uh-huh.
to seek their approval.
Oh, so you're constantly trying to please them.
Yeah, it's like being trapped in a web.
Okay, and here's the kicker. You might actually miss the narcissist after you leave.
I know, right? Sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but it happens a lot.
Why? Why would you miss someone who's mistreated you?
Well, because of the love bombing in those early stages.
Oh, right, that over-the-top affection.
Exactly, that just sweeps you off your feet.
Yeah,
And even though you rationally know it wasn't genuine,
right.
that intensity can be hard to break.
So it's like you're grieving the loss of something that wasn't even real.
Exactly.
So what's the advice for someone who's trying to break free?
Well, Erickson really emphasizes, first and foremost, prioritize your well-being.
Okay.
Above all else, seek support
Okay.
from friends, family, therapists, support groups.
So build that network.
Exactly.
Have allies.
Yeah, and remember that you deserve better.
Right.
And surround yourself with people who remind you of that.
Okay. That's so important.
Yeah,
But what about this broader narcissistic culture?
right.
What can we do on a societal level?
That's where it gets even more interesting because he says it's not enough to just focus on individuals.
Right.
We need to shift the entire cultural narrative.
But how do we even begin to do that?
Well, he offers a few starting points.
Yeah.
First, we need to redefine success.
So not the biggest house, the fancy car.
Exactly.
What does true success even look like?
He says true success takes time, it takes effort,
Okay.
and it shouldn't come at the expense of others.
It's not about climbing the ladder and stepping on everyone
Exactly.
on the way up.
It's about, a more holistic view of success
Yeah,
that considers everyone's well-being.
right.
He also suggests something pretty radical, a social media detox.
Oh my God, 30 days?
I know.
I can't even imagine.
I know it sounds drastic, but it allows you to, reconnect
Yeah.
with yourself and the real world.
Right, like hit that reset button.
Yeah.
Okay, so redefine success, social media detox, what else?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of humility,
Oh, okay.
cultivating genuine connection, gratitude, and giving back to others.
So it's like shifting the focus from me to we.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful antidote
Yeah.
to this self-absorption of narcissistic culture.
Okay, that was a lot to unpack. It was.
But I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we just dipped our toes in.
We explored, like, the spectrum of narcissism, the origins, the impact. But there's so much more to delve into.
Oh, yeah. We've only just begun to uncover the layers of this, fascinating and often frustrating phenomenon.
So stay tuned,
It's
because we're going to dive even deeper
deeper.
into the heart of narcissistic culture
Yes.
and explore how we can break free
Can't wait.
from its grip.
Yeah.
All right, so join us next time
Yes.
for part 2
More narcissism.
of this deep dive.
Woo! This whole car design thing, it really got me thinking.
I know, right?
Like, how else is this narcissistic culture
Yeah,
seeping into everyday life? It's kind of freaky.
totally. It's like we're surrounded by these cues
Yeah.
that are pushing us toward a more self-centered mindset
Yeah.
without even realizing it.
It's insidious.
Does Erickson give any other examples? He talks about how easily people get offended these days.
Oh, yeah.
That quickness to judge and condemn,
Okay.
like of cancel culture,
Right.
where people are publicly shamed
Yeah.
and ostracized
Yeah.
for like the slightest misstep.
And you're saying this is connected to narcissism.
He argues that it's a form of collective narcissism.
Okay.
It's about groups feeling entitled to dictate what others can say or do, and punishing those who don't conform to their specific standards. It's a lack of tolerance for differing viewpoints.
It's like they're the morality police
Exactly.
with the right to silence anyone who disagrees.
Right. And there's no room for nuance or debate.
So it's really about control, isn't it?
Hmm.
Controlling the narrative. Controlling other people's behavior.
Absolutely.
Controlling how they're perceived.
And this desire for control plays out so dramatically
Yeah.
in personal relationships.
Especially romantic ones.
Oh, especially romantic ones.
Yeah.
He paints a pretty sobering picture.
Let's go there. What are some of those common relationship patterns?
Well, one of the most obvious is just the constant need for attention.
Oh, yeah.
Narcissists thrive on being the center of the universe,
Right.
and they'll often use their partners
Mm.
to fulfill that need.
So it's not about a real partnership.
No,
It's about using the other person.
it's about feeding their ego,
Right.
and they'll use all sorts of tactics to keep that attention flowing.
Like what?
Excessive compliments 1 minute,
Okay.
cold distance the next,
Oh, yeah.
creating this push-pull dynamic
Oh, I hate that.
that keeps you off balance.
Yeah.
And constantly striving for their approval.
That hot and cold thing is so confusing.
It's the worst.
Erickson also talks about narcissists having these elaborate fantasies.
Yes, he describes how they'll often daydream
Okay.
about a life that's like grander,
Uh-huh.
more successful, more fulfilling than their current reality. And who do they blame for holding them back from these fantasies? Often their partner.
So it's never their fault.
Never.
It's always someone else's.
It's always someone else who's preventing them
Right.
from reaching their full potential,
How convenient.
from getting the recognition they deserve. Their partner becomes the scapegoat.
Oh, for their own shortcomings.
Exactly.
Hmm.
He also talks about how they'll often choose the wrong side in an argument,
Really?
even if it means siding against their own partner.
That's so bizarre.
It's another classic narcissistic trait,
Okay.
putting their own needs and desires above everything else,
Wow.
even if it means hurting those closest to them.
So their loyalty is to their ego.
Yes.
Not to the relationship.
Exactly.
That's like the opposite of a healthy partnership.
Right. It creates this dynamic where one person's needs are constantly being met at the expense of the other.
Okay, so what do you do?
Well, Erickson gives some advice.
Let's hear it. What's the secret to dealing with a narcissist?
First and foremost, you can't change them.
Oof. That's tough, especially if you love them.
It is, but their behavior is so deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
It's not something you can fix with a pep talk
Right.
or a little therapy.
So if you can't change them, what can you do?
He suggests setting very clear boundaries.
Okay.
Let them know what you will and will not tolerate, and be prepared to walk away.
That's easier said than done,
Oh, for sure.
especially when you're dealing with all the manipulation.
Right. It can feel like you're walking on eggshells.
All the time.
But protecting yourself from their toxic behavior is paramount.
Didn't he also suggest, like, taking a step back
Yes.
when they're trying to provoke you? Like, don't engage in the drama?
He calls it the gray rock technique.
Gray rock?
Yeah. You become emotionally unresponsive, like a boring, lifeless rock.
I like it.
You're not giving them the reaction
Okay.
they're seeking. You're depriving them of the fuel. They need to control and manipulate you.
So it's like you're disarming them by refusing to play their game.
You got it.
That takes some serious self-control, though.
It does. But it can be really effective.
Okay, but what if you're not romantically involved,
Yeah.
but you still have to deal with a narcissist?
Right.
Like a coworker, a family member.
It's not as easy to just walk away.
Right.
Right. Well, Erickson has advice for that, too.
Okay.
Limit your interactions as much as possible.
Okay.
Keep your distance.
Uh-huh.
Avoid getting sucked into their drama.
So it's like damage control.
Exactly.
Minimize the negative impact.
If you have to interact, stay calm and detached.
Right.
Don't let them get under your skin.
Okay, I can try that.
Remember, their behavior is a reflection of them, not you.
So build that emotional shield.
Yes.
Deflect the negativity. Now, Erickson also talks about this idea of deprogramming ourselves from this whole narcissistic culture thing.
He does. And he starts by suggesting we examine our own fears.
Okay.
Fear of rejection, fear of failure,
Oh, yeah.
fear of not being good enough.
We all have those.
Right.
Right.
And those fears can make us so vulnerable to manipulation.
Oh, because we're so desperate for approval.
Yeah.
We'll put up with being treated poorly.
If we're constantly seeking validation,
Uh-huh.
constantly trying to prove ourselves,
Right.
we become easy targets.
So how do we deprogram these fears? They feel so ingrained.
Well, he suggests confronting them head on.
Okay.
Acknowledge them, challenge those negative thoughts,
Right.
and build up your self-confidence.
So it's not about pretending we're not afraid.
No.
It's about learning to manage those fears.
Exactly.
And develop, like, inner resilience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about building that inner strength.
Okay.
So we're less susceptible.
To outside manipulation.
Exactly. What else? Setting boundaries.
Okay.
Not just with narcissists, but in all of our relationships.
Right.
Learning to say no,
Mm-hmm.
protect our time and energy,
Yeah.
prioritize our own needs.
It's about respecting ourselves enough
Yes.
to not let other people walk all over us.
Exactly. And communicating those boundaries clearly and assertively.
That's really tough, though.
It is.
Especially if you've been conditioned to be, like, a people pleaser.
Yeah.
You feel like you're being selfish.
Right.
Or, I mean, but it's really about self-preservation.
It's about recognizing that your needs are valid
Okay.
and deserving of respect. Now, he suggests a very specific exercise.
Okay, I like those.
For those who've experienced manipulation,
All right.
put those experiences into words.
So write it down.
Yes. Write down specific instances of manipulative behavior.
Okay.
How those behaviors made you feel. And what you need to see happen differently in the future.
So it's like bringing those experiences out into the open
Exactly.
instead of keeping them bottled up.
Putting it into words can be so empowering.
Right, because then you're like validating your own feelings.
Exactly. It helps you understand what happened.
Right.
Validate your feelings.
Okay.
And start taking back control. And then he actually suggests having a conversation
Whoa. Okay.
with the person who's been manipulating you.
That sounds intense.
It can be.
So how do you approach a conversation like that?
He emphasizes staying calm,
Okay.
focusing on specific behaviors,
Right.
and avoiding blame.
Don't attack.
No accusations.
So you're pointing out the impact of their actions
Yes.
without attacking them personally.
Right. Give them a chance to understand how their actions are affecting you
Okay.
without triggering their defensiveness.
That's a delicate balance.
It is.
But what if they're not receptive? What if
Right.
they deny it
Well, it's-
or refuse to change?
Well, then Erickson is very clear. You have to walk away.
You have to.
You have to.
Sometimes the healthiest choice
Yes.
is to remove yourself from the situation.
It's an act of self-love
Wow.
and self-respect. He also talks about, building a support system.
Right. Surround yourself with good people.
Yes, having those allies.
Yeah.
People you can trust to validate your experiences
Right.
and help you through the healing process.
It's so crucial. It's like a reminder that you don't have to go through this alone.
Exactly.
There are people who care
Yes.
and want to help. So let's say you've managed to extricate yourself
Yeah.
from a relationship with a narcissist. Is it smooth sailing from there?
Unfortunately, not always.
Really?
Erickson actually points out that this phase can be surprisingly challenging.
Why? I would think it would be such a relief.
There is relief,
Yeah.
but there's also this strange phenomenon.
What?
Even though you've recognized the manipulation
Mm-hmm.
and made the decision to leave, you might still find yourself missing the narcissist.
Missing someone. Who mistreated you? How does that even happen?
It's actually really common.
But why? It seems so counterintuitive.
Well, he points to the intense love bombing that happens in the early stages.
Right. That like whirlwind
Exactly.
of affection, attention.
That's so intoxicating.
Yeah. It's hard to resist getting swept up.
And it creates this really powerful bond.
Right.
And even though, rationally it wasn't genuine,
Yeah.
those feelings can linger.
So it's like you're grieving
Hmm.
the loss of something that never even existed.
Exactly. So be patient with yourself during this phase.
Okay.
It takes time to heal,
Uh-huh.
to disentangle yourself from the emotional manipulation.
So don't judge yourself
No.
for having those feelings.
Understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
Allow yourself time to process.
It's a process. He also talks about how the separation can trigger memories
Yes.
of those early intoxicating days.
Yes, and those memories can be incredibly seductive.
Oh, no.
You might start romanticizing the relationship,
Oh, yeah.
focusing on the good times, downplaying the bad.
Like trying to convince yourself it wasn't that bad.
Exactly. And that can make it even harder to move on.
Right.
You're essentially holding yourself back
Yeah.
by clinging to a fantasy.
So how do you break free?
Focus on reality.
Oof.
Remind yourself of the reasons why you left.
Ground yourself in the truth,
Yes.
no matter how uncomfortable it is.
Face the reality of the situation,
Even if it hurts.
even if it hurts.
Okay.
And recognize that you deserve better
Right.
than to be treated with disrespect and manipulation.
You're worthy of a love that's genuine
Yes.
and reciprocal. It's like reminding yourself, I deserve better.
Exactly.
I deserve to be treated with respect. Now, he also talks about how we might find ourselves repeatedly attracted to the same type of person.
Ah, yes, the cycle. It can be so hard to break.
It's like we're drawn to what's familiar, even if it's unhealthy.
He suggests that we might be subconsciously drawn to those who remind us of past narcissists
Okay.
in our lives. A parent, a sibling, an ex-partner.
Like we're recreating those patterns,
That's exactly.
even if they're harmful. So how do we break free from that, those subconscious patterns?
Therapy can be really helpful.
Okay.
Self-reflection, journaling, anything that helps us understand our motivations
Uh-huh.
and make conscious choices.
About who we let in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of our own narrative
Yeah.
and choosing partners who are capable of genuine love and respect. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
So powerful. Now, there's this woman, Linda.
Linda.
He uses her as an example.
Yes, Linda, the seemingly perfect young woman.
She seems to have it all, but there's a darker story beneath the surface.
Right, it's a cautionary tale
Yeah.
about how even those who appear to have it all can fall prey to narcissism.
What makes Linda so vulnerable? Like, what's her deal?
Well, she's got all the outward signs of success.
Mm.
Loving parents, comfortable upbringing,
Okay, privilege.
good looks, vibrant social life.
She's the it girl.
She is. But beneath the surface, there are cracks.
Oh, okay.
She manipulates her parents to get what she wants, slanders those who don't give her enough attention,
Oh, wow.
and prioritizes her own desires above all else.
It's like she's so used to getting her way
Exactly.
that she's lost touch with empathy.
And consideration for others.
Right.
And it all comes crashing down when she enters the workforce
Wow.
and realizes the real world doesn't operate on the same principles of entitlement.
So it's a harsh wake-up call.
It is. And it makes you wonder, how much are we contributing to the development of these narcissistic tendencies?
So how did we get here? How did this narcissistic culture become so pervasive?
Well, Erickson traces it back to the rise of individualism in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, interesting. That era of self-expression.
Right.
Breaking free from societal norms.
Exactly. And while that had a lot of positive aspects,
Right. Of course.
he argues that it also planted the seeds for a more self-centered worldview.
So the pendulum swung too far
Yes.
in the direction of me.
Me. not we.
We lost sight of the community.
Interconnectedness.
And it's only intensified in recent decades.
Oh, absolutely.
He talks about how parenting styles have evolved,
Yeah.
becoming more permissive, less focused on discipline.
Helicopter parenting.
Right. Like, or afraid to say no to our kids.
Exactly. We're creating a generation that expects to be constantly praised.
Right.
And rewarded regardless of effort. They're not prepared for the real world.
Right, because the real world doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. He also talks about this rise of self-esteem as a cultural obsession.
Oh, interesting.
We're so focused on boosting self-esteem that we've lost sight of humility,
Okay.
hard work, and genuine accomplishment.
So it's like everyone gets a trophy just for showing up.
Exactly. Participation is great, but it shouldn't be the only measure of success.
It creates a disconnect between self-perception and reality.
Exactly.
So people might have this inflated sense of their abilities.
Yeah, and that can lead to problems
I bet.
because they haven't actually developed the skills
Right.
to back it up.
And then he says, this focus on self-esteem can actually backfire.
It can. He cites research suggesting that people with high self-esteem,
Okay.
when faced with failure, are more likely to blame others and lash out aggressively.
Oh, wow. So it's like they can't handle not being perfect.
That inflated sense of self can't handle the blow.
They've got to protect that ego.
And that fragility is a hallmark of narcissism. It's a defense mechanism
Oh, hey.
to avoid confronting their flaws and insecurities.
That makes sense. And then, of course, we can't forget social media.
Oh, social media. The perfect platform for self-promotion,
For sure.
image crafting, the relentless pursuit of likes and followers.
It's a breeding ground for narcissistic behavior.
It is.
It's like we're all performing
Yeah.
for this invisible audience.
Exactly.
Showcasing our curated lives.
And then we're constantly comparing ourselves
Yeah.
to others.
Trying to present the most perfect, enviable image.
Right.
It's exhausting. So what's the solution?
Well, Erickson has some ideas for countering what he calls hyper-narcissism.
Okay.
And he starts by suggesting that we reframe our definition of success.
So not the biggest house, the fanciest car, the most followers.
Right. It's not about those external markers.
So what is it about?
It's about finding meaning and purpose in our work,
Okay.
in our relationships, in our contributions to the world. Living a life that's aligned with our values.
So it's about shifting the focus
Yes.
from material possessions.
To something deeper.
More fulfilling.
He says happiness is not about getting what you want. It's about wanting what you have.
That's so good.
It is, isn't it?
It's about gratitude
Yes.
and abundance. What else?
He suggests taking a break from the constant bombardment of social media.
The social media detox. 30 days. I don't think I can do it.
I know, it sounds daunting. But even a short break can be so helpful.
Yeah.
It helps us break free from the comparison trap,
Okay.
reconnect with ourselves,
Right.
and rediscover the beauty of the offline world.
It's about reclaiming our time and attention
Exactly.
and investing it in things that actually nourish our souls.
What else does he suggest? Oh, finding our own unique ways of expressing ourselves.
Okay.
Whether it's through creative pursuits, volunteering, connecting with nature,
Right.
or just spending quality time with loved ones.
It's about embracing our individuality,
Exactly.
honoring our passions, and sharing our gifts with the world.
And ultimately, it's about being the change we want to see.
It sounds so big.
It is big,
Yeah.
but it starts with small, everyday acts.
Like what? Give me an example.
Setting boundaries with narcissistic individuals,
Okay.
calling out manipulative behavior,
Uh-huh.
modeling healthy communication patterns.
Right, so being the example.
Exactly.
It's also about standing up for what's right,
Yes.
extending compassion to those who are struggling.
It's about raising the next generation
Oh, yeah.
with a different set of values,
Teaching them kindness, empathy, resilience,
creating a ripple effect of positive change.
starting with ourselves.
Exactly.
And extending outward. So Erickson ends the book with a really powerful message of hope.
He does.
He reminds us that we all have the capacity for change, for growth, and for connection. It's never too late to choose the path of humility
To cultivate genuine connection.
and contribute to a more loving and compassionate world.
Wow, that's beautiful. So we've explored a lot in this deep dive, but there's still so much more to uncover.
Oh, yeah. We've only just scratched the surface of this whole narcissistic culture thing. You know, this whole humility thing as an antidote to this narcissistic culture really stuck with me.
I know, right? It's like so countercultural these days.
It's radical.
Yeah. But how do you even cultivate humility? Like, it feels kind of abstract.
It does, but Erickson actually gives us some practical strategies.
Okay, good, because I need those.
He says, first, start by examining your own motivations. Like, why are you so driven to accumulate wealth, to achieve status, to get recognition?
Yeah, what are we trying to prove? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are you trying to fill? And he suggests, like, once you understand those deeper motivations, you can start to challenge them.
Maybe reframe your definition of success. Find fulfillment in something deeper, more meaningful. He also talks about setting limits.
Okay.
Learning to say no. Like,
Yeah.
no to this pursuit of more.
Right. You can't have it all.
You can't do it all, you can't have it all. He has this great line, happiness is not about getting what you want. It's about wanting what you have.
That's good. I like that.
Shifting from that scarcity to abundance.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what else?
Oh, social media detox.
Oh, he's really serious about that 30 days, huh?
He is.
I don't know if I can do it.
It's a challenge, for sure. But even a short break can help you break free from that comparison trap.
Right.
Reconnect with yourself. Rediscover the beauty of the offline world.
It's about where you invest your time and attention.
All right.
Exactly. Okay, so examine your motivations, set some limits, social media detox.
And then find your own unique ways of expressing yourself.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Whether it's through creative pursuits, volunteering, connecting with nature, spending time with people you love.
Yes.
It's about living authentically,
Exactly.
honoring your passions. So it all boils down to this idea of being the change.
Right, but how do we do that? It feels so big.
Yeah. How do we take these big ideas and put them into practice in our everyday lives?
Well, it starts with those small, everyday acts.
Okay, like what?
Setting boundaries with these narcissistic individuals.
Yeah, calling out manipulation.
Modeling healthy communication patterns, being the example.
So important.
It is. And, it's about raising the next generation with a different set of values.
Teaching them to be kind,
Yes.
to be empathetic,
Yes.
teaching them resilience. Like, those are skills.
So important. We're creating this ripple effect of positive change.
Starting with ourselves,
Exactly.
extending outwards.
Erickson, he ends the book with this really powerful message of hope.
I love that.
He reminds us that we all have the capacity for change, for growth, for connection.
It's never too late
It's not.
to choose a different path.
To choose the path of humility, to cultivate genuine connection, and to contribute to a more loving and compassionate world.
That's beautiful. So as we wrap up our deep dive into narcissism, I hope you've learned some things along with us today. I know I have.
Me too.
We've explored the spectrum of narcissism,
The origins, the impact,
but more importantly, what we can do about it.
both individually and as a society.
So I encourage you to reflect on what we've discussed today. Think about how you've encountered this kind of behavior in your own life and what you can do to break free from its grip.
And how we can create a world that's a little less narcissistic and a lot more loving.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been real.
It has. See you next time.